how do we remain consistent? How do we keep going even when we don't want to? What's at stake here? A lot of things, obviously. We wouldn't have started these things if they weren't initially important to us, but how do we keep going? Not everybody keeps going, and in fact, most people usually give up or quit or focus on something else once it gets hard. How do we keep going? What is the key to consistency? That's what we're going to talk about today. Thank you so much for joining me in this episode 239 of the Income Stream. We got a lot to talk about, so thanks for coming in. If you're here live with me, say hello to your friends here. If you happen to be watching the replay, hit me up with a hashtag team replay in the comment section. A big thumbs up would be great too if you enjoy this content at any time. And of course, thank you so much for showing up today. Here we go.
This is the Income Stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the Income Stream. It's the kind of show where you can come and go, but then you leave inspired with no fee required. The Income Stream with Pat Flynn.
All right. Hello, everybody. We're going to talk about staying consistent. Now, I do have maybe a little bit of proof that I know what I'm talking about. I've been doing this particular stream every morning for 239 days in a row, and I cannot thank you enough for helping me and encouraging me, and I'm just really grateful for you and for that. Thank you so much. If any of you can understand why I'm wearing this shirt, it's very purposeful today. Give me a note in the comments section. There's a little bit of an Easter egg there, but why am I wearing the Save the Clock Tower shirt? Yes, it's from Back to the Future, but why is today specifically very important? All right, so let's talk about consistency, and specifically, I'm going to talk about 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 specific things that we can do to remain more consistent. Now, in some cases, I may be preaching to the choir here because a lot of you have consistently shown up every day here on the Income Stream, and I'm really grateful for that. But I want to talk about the things that you want to do. I want to talk about the things that you want to accomplish and the goals that you have. Cool. So here's what we need to do. We need to talk first about the thing that, in fact, has helped me the most, that may help you too. This isn't for everybody. Not all 5 of these things will be relevant for each of you, but just even one of these things can help you stay consistent. Here, let me know in the chat if you have trouble staying consistent. If you start things but don't often finish. If you go for a little bit of time, you have a nice burst of energy in the beginning, and then all of a sudden it doesn't work. So let me know. Let me know if you can. Yes, Stephanie, I see, and a few other people had mentioned Back to the Future. November 12th, 1955, the most eventful day in the Back to the Future world. It's the day the lightning strikes, the day that Lorraine and George get back together, the day of the enchantment under the sea dance, all that great stuff happens on that day. So anyway, thank you for entertaining me on that. But let's start with tip number 1, or strategy, tactic number 1. And for me, and this isn't, again, for everybody, but many people are in fact motivated by gamification. Gamification means this idea of almost kind of creating a game around what it is that you're trying to do. A game, when you think about it, has very much points. It has levels that you unlock. It has achievements at the end of those levels. It has rewards along the way. And for me, gamification is a very big strategy for me when it comes to consistency. I don't like losing games. I don't like breaking streaks. So I want you to think about one of the things that Apple has done recently to help people stay on top of their health. What is that? They have these Apple Watches now. And what do they have on the Apple Watches that people, once they start the thing, they can't stop the thing? It is those little rings for steps and heart rate, and I don't even know what's on there because I don't use that myself, but I know a lot of people who have to fill in their rings every single day because it gamifies this health process for them. It allows for a little fun game related to finishing and completing these rings every day. It feels really good. You get those endorphins at the end of the day, and then you start over the next day, and once you start going into that streak, you can't stop. And that's very much what's happened here on the Income Stream and how we've been able to get to day 239 with really no problems. And I haven't skipped a day yet. And so what has happened is when I first started this in March, it was just a one-time thing. And that one-time thing, I said, you know what, I'm going to see if I can do this for an entire week. and continue to help people. And this 1 week turned into 1 month. The 1 month turned into 100 days. The 100 days turned into, okay, let's just do this for the full year and see what happens there, right? So when you can create a little game out of this, if you have some sort of way that you can gamify whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether, and you can do that in your own special way, right? For me, obviously I have YouTube and I have the idea of I wanting every day in there. And plus now I have you showing up every day, kind of expecting that. And that'll take me to my next tip in just a moment. I know some people who have a whiteboard and they want to check off things every day. That one thing that they want to do every day that they want to remain consistent on, they have a thing and they don't want to leave any of them blank. When I think about some of the other things that I was very consistent about in the past, for example, writing. When I wrote my book, Superfans, many of you have purchased and have read Superfans. It's up there on the shelf, by the way. Thank you so much. Hey Archer says, save the clock tower. Hey everyone. Bruh. Consistency is key, indeed. Yes, the snowball effect, getting started and then just keep going. And an object at rest tends to stay at rest, right? But an object in motion tends to stay in motion. This is physics. And we're using gamification as sort of a strategy to back that up. But when I wrote my book, Superfans, one thing that helped me remain consistent was actually this challenge that happens in November. November 2 years ago is when I wrote this book. And there's something that happens in November here in the online space and in the writer space more specifically called NaNoWriMo. And NaNoWriMo is a event or a challenge that happens every November where authors come together and they hunker down and they try to write every day for 30 days straight to try and write 50,000 words within November. What is this challenge? It's gamification of writing. Can we write every single day and get to 50,000 words? And it's cool because I wrote Superfans. I wasn't able to finish by November 30th, but I actually finished on my birthday, December 6th, so about a week later. And this is where Superfans came from, and it completely was done because I had gamified the process. So I want you to think about what it is that you are doing and how you might be able to gamify that process. Are you going to be able to keep track of your streaks? Is this something that you can do to, keep yourself motivated? And what is the reward on the other end? Gamification isn't just about the level that you're playing, but the princess that you could rescue at the end of Mario, or that gold coin that you will unlock as soon as you complete and beat the boss of that level, right? And then you stack on and keep going, right? Then you move on to the next level, and there's another thing that you have to defeat. Gamification, the last part that I will say about this, also, when you play games, there are enemies, there are bosses, right? What is your version in whatever it is that you're trying to remain consistent about? What is your version of a boss? What is your version of a Koopa Troopa or some sort of enemy, right? In the world of online business, one thing that I know I always keep in mind is that there's a lot of other people in this online business space who show up and bring audiences in, and then they treat them like they're just a credit card number. They treat you like you're just a name on an email list ready to sell to, right? And so I often think about that when it comes to what I do online. I have to show up and serve because I want people to know that there are good people out there and that there are people who are in fact selling things and providing value, free and paid and premium, that's actually worth it. And I am sort of against those other people. It's interesting, and a lot of those people have actually reached out to me. I'm not going to mention any names, but names that you've probably heard of before that have not so great a reputation in the online space, but they've wanted to work with me because they know I have this trust with an audience. And I've always said no. I've always said no to working with them because I want to protect you. I want to protect my reputation, and that's really important to me. So that is the enemy that we're up against here. And so what is the enemy for you? You have to think about that, and this just, again, overall painting a picture of gamifying whatever it is that you're trying to do can be a really, really great strategy for accomplishing a goal and chipping away at it. So chat, tell me a little bit about what it is that you are hoping to build consistency for. What is the one thing, if you were to only choose one thing, I'd love for you to share it, and then I'm going to give you a shout out and mention it here in front of everybody, just to show that we're not alone in this either. I think the other thing about this is that we often feel like we're not alone, which takes us to our second tip and strategy, and that's somehow get accountability from others, because we need to hold ourselves accountable, that's for sure. That's a given. If we don't hold ourselves accountable, this is not going to work. But we can utilize other human beings, other important people in our life, audiences, colleagues, mastermind members, partners, friends, to hold us accountable too. Luke says, I want to be held accountable to writing blog posts. Jordan says, podcast. So content creation. Content creation is obviously really key to be consistent with. This is how your audience gets to continue to know you and rely on you and can expect certain things from you. And not just consistency in coming out with a post or a podcast or a YouTube video within a certain time and keeping that consistent, but also in terms of what people can expect of you, in terms of quality, in terms of value, in terms of how much you can help them. That's all important too. The Matable says, I want to be consistent in putting the hours into my digital brand. So we're talking about time management, staying consistent with having dedicated time to move forward in your business. Podcast episode release every other week consistently, says David. I love that. And David, I know, has a podcast and is coming out with one, and is also going to be helping other people come out with one too. So this is very important for you, right, David? Because if you aren't consistent with a podcast, how in the world are you going to teach others to do the same thing? So that's exactly very important. Dr. Severin Bryan, making a monthly blog post. Grandma Goody, videos every Sunday to complete my list of all the best Bible stories suitable for kids. Love it. So consistency in terms of results from Michael Short, to grow my audience, serve more people, and gain new members, clients, customers when it's the best fit for them. Content creation from Consult the Blind Guy. Love it. This is really key. Dr. Joel, to be an authority in my space and change the world one shoulder roll at a time. So that's the end goal. But oftentimes we need to start thinking about what are we going to do consistently. And I love that you're thinking about the end goal too, because that's really important as well. We're going to talk about that in just a minute based on what Dr. Joella just said. But I want to talk about accountability. I want to talk about the fact that we often cannot remain consistent if we're doing everything ourselves. It's really, really difficult to do that. Self-discipline is not as easy as just a decision. It's a habit. It's a chore. It's hard. It's a challenge. And one of the best things that we can do when we're playing a game, if we're continuing this conversation about gamification, is to play this game with other players. I mean, there was a very specific reason why I was very consistent in logging into World of Warcraft my junior year of college to play every single day and stay up for hours in the night, because it wasn't just me playing. It was my clan on the other side of the world, my guild, who also was expecting me to show up too. And the idea of I would be missing out on a lot of the things gained with what the clan and the guild was doing, right? On our quest. I am a little bit of a nerd and a gamer, so please excuse me for that. But junior year of college, that's what it was all about. So when you have this crew of people who you can work with, you can help, and they can help you. Accountability with an audience. A lot of us have the benefit of having built even a small audience. And that small audience can be big when it comes to what we can think about when it comes to, okay, why do we need to keep going here? A lot of you have mentioned your blog posts and staying consistent with that. A lot of you have mentioned your videos and your podcast episodes. Well, it's not just for you. These things we are creating for others too. And if we start thinking about who this is for and who can hold us accountable, whether we tell them to hold us accountable or not, I've told you here on the Income Stream before, you are the reason why I'm here every day. And I am accountable to you. If I skip tomorrow, not only is my streak over, and we talked about gamification already, but I've let you down too. And I've already committed to doing this for 1 year straight. We're at day 239. So if you haven't yet done so, hit that subscribe button so we can be on this journey together. And of course, every day I'm talking about different topics here. And today we're getting a little meta because on the Income Stream, I'm talking about being consistent. And that's what I want you to do too. So accountability from others. So not only was this gamification of writing my book in 2018 very important in terms of having a consistent writing habit every day, writing down how many words that I was actually progressing every day, but part of what I did to help me move forward with that book, because the book was really hard and it was difficult, I had started and stopped so many times, part of what kept me going was the idea that I was holding myself accountable by utilizing the audience that I had built. How did I do that? I played a fun little game, again, going back to games, but I utilized this audience. Many of you might remember this, but I had a fun little challenge every day for people to guess how many words I was writing every single day. And I shared every day on Instagram. You can go back in time and see in late 2018, I had posts specifically about how many words I had written. In fact, I haven't gone back into those in a while. I'm wondering if it wouldn't be too hard for me to go and seek these out. Probably not going to be able to make it in time because I've been pretty consistent on Instagram posting too, right? Anyway, accountability. And then what was happening was every day people were expecting me to share the number of words that I wrote, whether it was just a few hundred or several thousand. And at the beginning, it was just a few hundred because it was a struggle. And eventually, I started to gain momentum. Again, that snowball effect started to take place. And I felt like I needed to show up every day, or else, not that I was like lying to everybody, but I would be letting people down, or I'd be going back on my word. So whether it's a single person in your household that can help hold you accountable, a person that's going to be doing this with you, or a group of people that are going to be doing this with you, or an entire audience out there in this world who you've told that you're going to do something, those are things that can hold you accountable and keep you going. By keeping going, I mean that moment when you've done this for a while and it's starting to become a burden and it's starting to become a chore and you're not really in it anymore. You go, you know what? Well, I'm going to do it anyway. That's the difference between success with people who are consistent and those who fail with consistency, is when you don't want to do it anymore, you still do it anyway. And having these things in place to continue to motivate yourself to do that. Tim does say, however, and I agree with this, at the end of the day, we are accountable to ourselves. Our success is a result of what we do. I agree with that. However, again, putting these things into place can help us hold ourselves more accountable, to keep us motivated when we are often fighting our own worst enemy, and that is ourselves, right? We are often our own worst enemy. You're killing it, Pat, says Girly Gore. Thank you so much. What's your channel about, Girly Gore? I like the name of that, by the way. Discover Ignite says that's a good idea. Fantastic. Okay, let's keep going here. We talked about gamification, creating streaks, using the idea of human psychology to not want to leave things blank or to not want to leave any holes unfilled. We're going to keep staying consistent for gamification purposes, utilizing that part of our brain. Number 2, accountability. Having other people in place to know what we're up to support us when we need it, and to just be there so that we have maybe even a little bit of quote unquote shame if we were to give up. We don't want to look bad in front of other people. So we use this other person, these other people, to keep us motivated to keep going. And if you understand what you're doing it for them, then that's even better. Number 3, I want you to think about what's at stake here. A lot of times, even in the selling process, we think about all the great things, the features, the benefits, and why we are doing this. But what is at stake is an amazing question to ask ourselves too, because in the selling process, what's at stake if we don't solve this problem? That can often motivate people to take action with you, to transact with you. When it comes to ourselves and the goals that we have, what is at stake if we were to not do this? If we were to stop being consistent? What is at stake if you were to stop being consistent with eating well and your exercise? Well, you can start to become a little lethargic. For me, I think about what's at stake in terms of my creativity. My creativity, it goes down. My production levels go way down when I'm not eating well and I'm not exercising well. And of course, your lifespan goes down. And that's very much longer term, but that is truthful as well. What's also at stake? If I'm a little bit tired and I'm a little bit grumpy because I'm not eating well, my relationships are at stake. And so these are the kinds of things that keep me motivated to continue to remain healthy and eat healthy and exercise and all those kinds of things. When it comes to online business, what's at stake here? I've already talked about this a little bit. Part of what holds me accountable is knowing that there's other people out there who are bad, who are trying to get in front of you. And I want to come in and show you that the truth, this is hard, but I want to help you and share with you some of the things I've been learning and help you avoid some of those mistakes. And I don't want you to fall into the traps that many of the other people teaching online business, there's so many great people out there, by the way. It's not like I'm the only one who's serving first, but there are well-known names out there of people who are doing this for the wrong reasons. And I need to show up because I want to teach you the right way to do it, right? That's why I'm here. What is also at stake is my income, right? If I don't consistently show up, then that definitely affects my bottom line. Now, of course, I've built in things and strategies and teams and systems and whatnot to keep things going, even if I were to stop momentarily. Heard a dog. Did you hear that? But having this idea of, okay, well, if I were to stop being consistent, what is now negatively going to happen? That can drive us to move forward too, right? Chat's very lively this morning. Moderators, thank you so much for coming in here. I appreciate you. We got Samson in the house, holding down the house, as well as K-Walk Comedy. Big thank you to the moderators here. Dr. Joella says, good morning. So nice to see all of you. I'm on my phone. Love that you're here. Thank you, by the way, all of you. Also, did you notice a little bit of purple behind me? I'm trying to mix up the colors a little bit, trying to make it a little bit different. Cool. So we talked about gamification. We talked about accountability. We talked about what's at stake, right? Your why, but it's sort of thinking about the reverse part of your why, right? Because it's very easy to think about your why and still not be motivated. You're like, oh, this is hard. The why can help you for sure, but the what would happen if you stopped often works for me even better. Bill, woof, the world could end. It could. Thank you for the super chat, by the way. One of the, I saw a video from, who was it? I think it was from Gary Vaynerchuk. And a woman rolls up in a car, sees Gary on the street, rolls down her window, and says, hey, Gary. And he stops. He's like, hey, yeah, what's up? He takes his AirPods out. And she goes, Gary, can you give me something motivational? Give me something that can help me stay motivated. And he goes, you're gonna die. And I'm just like, what the heck? And he's like, you're gonna die. Live every moment to the best. Don't waste any time. And she's like, thank you. And I was just like, wow, that's kind of a strong way to put it, but that's true. The world could end. So what are we wasting time for? What are we lollygagging for? Right? Don't lollygag. Let's take action here. And part of this is what helps us stay motivated, right? So let's talk about the fourth thing that can keep us going, right? The fourth thing is keeping the start of this thing that you're doing simple. One of the main reasons, this is a very important point, so I'm going to zoom in. One of the main reasons why I've been able to stay consistently here, showing up in this office every single day for you for 239 days straight is because I've made it so simple. I literally hit a button and I'm live. I don't have to set up the lights every time. The cameras are already where they're at. I don't have to do anything but show up and go live. If it took even an ounce of effort to set up the video cameras every day, to get the lights back to where they should be, if that had to be done every single day, I promise you I wouldn't be here, at least not this consistently. So the big thing I want you to think about is with what it is that you're trying to do and remain consistent on, how much friction do you actually have to start that thing? The more friction there is to start something, the less likely you are to remain consistently doing it. Let me say that one more time. The more friction you have to start something, the less likely you are to remain consistent doing it. Right? It's a true story. Keep it simple, silly. Right? Yes, simplicity. At New Year's, so many people say they're going to work out every day, and they do for a few weeks, and then they're burned out. For sure. First of all, I think going from 0 to 100, never working out in your life, to going, I'm going every single day, that motivation is great. But let's try 2 days a week to start, or 3 days a week, and stay consistent there, because we also have to be realistic. And oftentimes, if you go from 0 to 100, you're going to get injured, and then you're even worse off, right? So let's get rid of the friction as much as possible. In James Clear's book, Atomic Habits, anybody a James Clear fan? I am indeed. And his book is and has been on the bestseller list for months in a row now, which is so fantastic. He's definitely earned it. But Atomic Habits is great. And an example that he offers in Atomic Habits is this. if you're going to run every day, right? You want to wake up in the morning and you run. Then the night before, have your running clothes and your shoes untied, already laid out, because you're removing as much of that friction as possible. You start simple. So with the income stream, all the cameras are set up here. I walk in, flip a switch, everything turns on. I go to Ecamm, I'm ready to broadcast. It's already there and available to me. Another thing that James talks about, I'm trying to remember, is this idea of not trying to run every day. Yes, you want to be consistent, and let's say you want to run every day. Let's not make it about the running every day. Let's make it about, let's just put on our shoes in the morning, right? That's easy. Let me consistently put on my running shoes every morning. And of course, hey, now that I have my shoes on, I'm off and running, right? So let's think about the smallest task that we can do to start this sequence of events that we want to do every day. So for me, on the income stream, I'm trying to think of what's my put on my shoes thing every morning. For me, what is it? It's turning on the computer. I mean, that's it, right? That's putting on my shoes. I'm not thinking about, I mean, yes, I am coming live, but I'm doing this for a whole hour. I'm not thinking about the entire hour. Yes, I have an outline and I'm kind of ready to go, but what I'm thinking about is just turning on the computer and hitting start broadcast or go live. And that's it, right? In yoga, it's let's get your feet on the mat, says Francis, right? What's your version of just getting your shoes on? Another example that James uses is if you want to go to the gym, right? Don't think about going to the gym all the time and all the hard work that you're going to do there, but just think about getting to the gym and walking through the door. Like, let's just spend 5 minutes at the gym. Hey, I'm only going to spend 5 minutes here. And just the act of you getting ready, walking in those gym doors, guess what? You're there already. You're going to work out once you're there. It's always the start that's hardest. It's always the start that's hardest, right? An object at rest tends to stay at rest. So let's just start getting a little bit of momentum. So start simple. Butt in chair, says Cheryl. Absolutely. James Clear is one of the reasons I can get up and hike every morning, says Samson. That's awesome. Have you told him that? I'm sure he'd love to hear it. Bernard says, I've been lately getting back to cycling every morning. This morning, I had 2 thorns in my tires, which means puncture fixing for the next ride. Sorry to hear that. Yo, Mr. Nimmons in the house. What's up? D, good to see you here. Thank you so much for coming in. I appreciate you and all the support. And I'm grateful. Feeding my cat, that gets me up every morning. Starts the motor, says Bill. I love it. So what small thing can you do to start being consistent, right? If you want to be consistent with something, let's not make it hard. Oftentimes we have so much friction to be able to even start that. And the more friction there is, the more time it takes for you to start that process, the less likely it is that you are to remain consistent. Guaranteed. Why not just make it simple to start and just focus on that first little step, be consistent with that, and then everything else is gonna take place. And to finish up here, and I'm gonna save the second half of this conversation for questions and just conversation and stories and any other things that might pop up. But the fifth and final thing that I want to talk about related to consistency, and this really helps me, is understanding that, you know what, I don't want to try. It's not about the thing. It's not about, it's about the idea that every time I do this, I get better, right? I want to be consistently improving. I want to be consistently improving. And I think this is just a thing that we all want. Anybody who's driven to be successful wants to improve. And the more you do something, the more likely it is that you're going to get better. So what's at stake here is me not allowing myself to improve every single day. James Clear talks about this in Atomic Habits as well, this idea of getting 1% better every single day. Whenever I come on a live stream, I try different things. I try one thing to try and get better. Today was the lighting in the background. I just wanted to see what it was like to have a little bit of blue wash and a little bit of purple wash and see if that did anything. Some other days it's about the outline. Some other days it's about storytelling. Some other days it's about what I do with my hands. Some other days it's about eye contact with the camera. I'm always trying to improve. But the more I do this, the more I can improve, and I've gotten exponentially better as a result of 239 days straight. And of course, in the beginning, it's hard because it's going to be terrible. As John Lee Dumas once told me, you have to be a disaster before you become the master, right? So, thinking about not the thing that you're doing, but the improvement of the thing that you're doing, that can drive you every single day. That's almost a part of gamification as well, to tie it back to number one. Let's say you're running every day, or you're at the gym doing weights. You can incrementally improve and see that improvement when you go. Now, if you are going at the gym, obviously you want to take breaks. If you are running every day, it's still smart to have a recovery day and all that kind of stuff, ice baths, etc. But you can see and actually track that improvement. A faster time, heavier weights, more endurance. That's what is driving me too. Every day I come in, I know I get better. And we've heard about this 10,000 hours thing, right? Malcolm Gladwell, you put 10,000 hours into something, you're automatically or going to be, just as a result of doing it so much, the expert on something. But I don't think we have to wait to 10,000 hours, even just hundreds of hours. But they have to be consistent hours, right? If you did 1 hour every year for 100 years, yeah, you'd have 100 hours of something, but you're not going to really improve because you're doing it only once for 1 hour every year. But imagine every day spending even 5 minutes doing something. It's going to improve. And when we think about how much we can improve and how much more we can go, that'll drive you. That'll drive you. Trying to improve its action, you should be proud of it. Yes. You should definitely be proud of it. And this is important too, right? This idea of, okay, we have these big goals. We have these giant, big, hairy, audacious goals. And oftentimes they're so big, hairy, and audacious that they weigh down on us. It makes us feel like almost that these things are impossible and that we can only celebrate if we were to actually achieve that goal. But I think breaking it down into little micro incremental steps and celebrating at each of those steps, not like throwing a party for yourself, but just being proud of the improvements that you're making, reflecting on how consistent you have been. That can help continue you on your journey as well. So, really good conversation today. Let's recap these 5 things for you on this side. Number 1, thinking about gamification. How can we actually create a game around this? Think about the Apple rings that we are often motivated to fill, or that spreadsheet that every day you have to clock in. What if you left one day blank? That would be so annoying. That's human psychology. We want to have patterns. We want to have things filled out. So gamify this process for you. For me, here on the income stream, it's a gamification of streak and actually how far can we go? Can we go for 365 days straight? It started with 1 day, 1 week, 1 month, 100 days, etc. Number 2, accountability. Having other people in your life, whether it's formalized in something like a mastermind group or even just an audience that's there who knows what you're trying to do. Having other people help you can drive you through those tough times and help you say yes when you want to say no. With anything that's important and hard, you will want to stop. It's the universe testing you to see, do you really want this? And stacking other people in our corner, in our favor, can help us get through those tough times. Number 3, thinking about what's at stake. The why for what it is that you're doing and the consistency and why that's important is key. But what would happen if you stopped? What is at stake here? There is a reason why you've been wanting to remain consistent, but think about also the consequence of what would happen if you weren't. Number 4, keeping the start simple. This seems to be in the chat the most powerful thing that was shared today because I think it's the most tangible and easy to deal with. You might think about the thing that you're trying to remain consistent on. Maybe it's your podcast and trying to remain consistent with that. How hard are you making it to actually record and do your podcast? Do you have to then pull out the mic and do it or is everything set up, right? With the income stream here, everything is set up. When I was doing NaNoWriMo 2018 in November, the writing challenge, my Word document was open every single morning so that all I had to do was walk in and start writing. I didn't even have to click on anything. I already prepared that the night before. Very similar to James Clear and Atomic Habits. If you want to start a running habit, lay out all your clothes the night before, untie your shoes, get them ready so there's zero friction when it comes to getting started. And number 5, thinking about the idea of your consistency will automatically help you improve. And if you were to stop that, your improvement can stop. And that momentum that you keep going, be consistently improving. That's the thing that you can focus on, but besides the thing itself, right? Right. Okay. How y'all doing? I was sort of in the zone there. So oftentimes when I get into presentation mode, especially if I have like something like an outline, and if it's a topic I'm very passionate about, I often like have this outer body experience where I can almost like see myself talking about these things. And then all of a sudden, once it's done, it's like I snap back into place and we're here. So I'm here with you again. Let me know which of those 5 things perhaps to you is most important or the biggest realization for you personally, and what is right for you or the thing that you need to do is different than anybody else. This is a very personal thing. This is the other thing about consistency. What works for you may not work for others. What works for me may not work for you. It's like diets, right? The paleo diet works for some and it doesn't work for others. The Whole Foods diet, or the, what is it called? The Whole 30 or something like Whole 40, something like that, works for some and it doesn't work for others. Bill says, great stuff. Bruh, that was gold, says Common Sense Philosophy.
Bruh.
Awesome. This is my jam, says Teachers Making the Basics Fun. I love when teachers make the basics fun, and we need to make the basics fun too, right? Beautiful day in San Diego. Thank you, Cynthia. Indeed it is. Tim, this is month 9 for D. Month 9 of, I'm curious. No Kagan in the house, by the way, everybody. Y'all need to follow D, and you need to follow Noah as well. Noah's been crushing it. Noah, I know I've been silently following, but you've been coming out with some really good stuff. Your emails are great, and your videos have been great. Thank you for what you do, my friend. I'm inspired, and you just keep it real, my friend. That's what I love. You're getting very open with a lot of the things that you're doing, and I appreciate you for that. So, Whole30, thank you. With blogs, my rate limiting factor is it getting edited without breaking the bank. Thoughts? Cool. So let's think about what we're doing, right? So the limiting factor is often very important to think about. This is what we like to call the bottleneck, right? The thing that's actually stopping progress from going, the governor on that golf cart, that no matter how hard you're putting the throttle down, there's just something that's slowing you down, right? And in this case, for Dr. Joella, it is what? It is this idea of having things edited so that she can publish them on her blog. Now, there's a lot of things that need to happen here. Number 1, you can increase your income such that now breaking the bank is not an issue anymore. So finding some mechanism to have some recurring income or to increase your price points to make up for the cost of editing can remove that bottleneck, right? So it could be a cash flow or income issue, something that can be solved with either increasing the price point or adding another campaign during the year. You can extrapolate this. How much over the course of a year? If you came out with 52 blog posts, 1 per week, if you extrapolate that cost, how can you in one moment, for example, one client, for example, make up that cost? In your brain now, you're like, okay, this is for unlocking that, boom, game over, right? So you can do it that way. Number 2, perhaps we can move the needle or that dial down in terms of how much you expect this thing to be perfectly edited. Now, I'm not saying that this is specifically what you need to do, but I know this is the case for some. Some of us have such a high standard of quality that we can't imagine anything but perfect. Therefore, we believe that we have to hire the number 1 editor in the world, and we need to have our blog posts 100,000% perfect. But if we were to dial it down to 95% perfect, thus costing a little bit less to edit, yes, there will be perhaps more mistakes, but it's good enough. And I would much rather you publish something that's good enough and still provide value than waiting to that point where you can finally hire the best editor in the world. And in the meantime, while we're all waiting for your content to come out, not getting any value whatsoever. Let me know if that's making sense. Love to see some new faces here in the chat. Yo, dude, high five. Love to see all the new faces here. Thank you so much. And make sure you hit that subscribe button, by the way. Just subscribe button right there. And that would be pretty dope. Aim for excellence instead of perfection. Dr. Severin Bryan says, I think of 2K view. Okay. I love that, Gail. Nomadables. What about the opposite side? Cheap editors. Right? Maybe it's not, maybe we reduce the amount of things that we do to still uphold that quality, right? Maybe it's 26 blog posts instead of 52. So you're cutting that in half now, but you're still able to provide and get that value out there. And you're still consistent. You know, there are podcasts out there that come out one every 3 months, but people are waiting for them because they're 5 hours long and they're so incredible and they go deep into the history of Genghis Khan. I'm talking about hardcore history for those of you who don't know that podcast. There's so much time and effort put into those things, but they're just less frequent. But it's still okay. They're still consistent in my book. I just have to wait a little bit longer. Think about Game of Thrones. Remember how long we had to wait for the final season? I mean, yeah, I mean, maybe this isn't the best example, especially with how it all ended. I'm not going to spoil anything, but wow. That's what we waited for? What's up, April S? Hi, Pat, you're awesome. You're awesome. Thank you so much for being here. We almost got 200 people live in the house with me right now. Thank you for showing up today. My mind is blown. Just every time I come in, there's just new people, and it just is so awesome. So make sure you hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and we got some more videos coming your way. Tomorrow is Friday, by the way. Tomorrow we're going to start at 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern, and because it's Friday, we're going to be spinning the wheel. We have some games, some prizes. We're going to be playing some brand standing and some other things. It's going to be super cool. Dawn says, yes, we have a friend who is an awesome piano player and writes, the only time I get to hear him is on our stuff. Perfectionist rarely gets heard, you think? Indeed. Indeed. And of course, the more you make mistakes, the more you're able to learn and the more you're able to actually get better. I'll tell you, ever since starting the income stream and being consistent, there are obviously even incredible byproducts of remaining consistent with one thing can help you with another thing. Just by showing up every day here on YouTube, I've become a much better storyteller, a much better communicator. One thing that has happened is I've gotten really good at live streaming and switching between cameras and doing all these things. Even for those of you in the back, you might know what I'm talking about, right? So what has happened is I've been able to take what I've learned here by just being consistent and having more opportunities to screw around and mess up and get better and learn into to the online stage virtually, because now all these conferences are done virtually. And I've been told from different conferences that I've been to and spoke at virtually that my talks are always rated #1 out of all the speakers because I just make it a little bit more engaging. Inserting things like but not, just automatically. And I can do the one-man show, and I've gotten significantly better. And I got to tell you, I'm not going to say that I'm the best in the world because I don't know. But I've gotten really good at this, and it helps me stand out. That's for sure. It's gotten to a point where, and I have a PR person who sometimes allows me to get on camera for news stations. She once told me that I have a thing like happening in an hour without me even knowing it. So I only had an hour before I was going to be on live television. You know what? Didn't miss a beat. Yes, I was still nervous and a little bit scared, just like I am before every morning I go live. But I know that because I've done this so much, a lot of the storytelling, a lot of the answering of questions now is just automatic. So I wasn't worried about that, right? The cheap seats rock. I hear you back there, there. Pat, you are real and genuine, so smile. Thank you. Appreciate it. Yikes, says making the basics fun. Will there be a Pat Flynn Santa emoji? Ooh, that'd be kind of interesting, actually. Reminds me of my old days as a disc jockey, says Cheryl, right? If you have that experience, like, let's bring it. Let's show up, right? Yo, hit that like. Wow, we have over 100 likes now. Thank you so much for that. That means the world. We broke 100 likes, and without even asking. So I appreciate the chat for having support for the channel. Dr. Severin Bryan says, Pat, you inspire me because my YouTube broadcasts are 95% live. I've picked up tricks from you. Great. I want to be the example for you too. And this is the other byproduct of showing up and being consistent. You become an example for others too. Don't we want to inspire others around us? That's kind of why we're doing what we're doing, right? A lot of us. Imagine you have kids, but yet you still make time for yourself to work on yourself, to meditate, to personally develop every single day. What example are you providing to your kids? This idea that you also have to take care of yourself first. By showing up every day here on the income stream, despite being an introvert and being a little bit nervous every time, I know that I've inspired many of you to show up and start going live and experimenting and trying new things and getting outside of your comfort zone, right? But not alone, doing it together. And that analogy I like to use is I'm just the guy in the front with the machete. We're just trudging a trail together and I'm in the front. I'm getting scratched up a little bit, but I have that giant blade, just like Grandma Goody shared with us on her story in episode 200, which was so fantastic. I'm never going to forget that, Grandma Goody. And we're making the trail together. And I'm going to take a lot of the hits so that you don't have to, right? T with Prit says, this seems really good. What is the income stream? Well, thank you for being here. The income stream is a daily show that I have to help people who are looking to improve personally and with their online business. And I've been doing business for 12 years online, and I'm here just to show up and be a resource. Today, we're specifically talking about the idea of being consistent. Tomorrow, well, it's Friday, so we play games and have some fun on Friday. But most of the time, we have very specific topics that we dive deep into. We together learn, we make mistakes together, we learn together, we grow together. It's all about being positive here in the Pat Cave. And I'm really thankful that you're here and would love for you to subscribe. Guitar with Saritra says, can I get a shout out? I'm kind of impatient. Thank you. And there's your shout out. And I love this topic of being impatient because I think a lot of us are just fine-tuned nowadays to be impatient. It is both a blessing and a curse to be impatient. Impatience, wanting something now, can often be very great. It can motivate us to take action and do things that we wouldn't normally do. We all know that we can't just wait around for things to happen. We have to take action and get things done. But at the same time, impatience or being impatient can work against us because we want results now, right? We live in this world where we can do a Google search and it tells us that we found millions of results in 0.009875276 seconds. We can go to Netflix and watch something that just somebody told us about right now. We don't have to go to Blockbuster Video anymore. We're not in that world anymore. We're in the world of instant. But when it comes to results, especially for things that require some work, results are never instant. The instant feedback we usually get is more negative, or the idea that this is going to take a lot longer than we expected. And as a result, you have a decision to make. Are you going to be motivated to stay consistent and keep going? Or are you going to use that as an excuse to stop because you aren't getting those results as fast as others, which is a dangerous game to play, the comparison game. We talked about this yesterday when John Lee Dumas was on, talking about the idea that if you just compare yourself to others, you're comparing apples and oranges always. Different things, different experiences, different wisdom, different circumstances, different opportunities, yet you are one-to-one comparing your lack of something to somebody's gain. And that is comparing your full life to somebody's highlight reel. You don't know the full story. You have to compare yourself to yourself yesterday, to yourself last week, to yourself last month, to yourself last year. How are you making those incremental improvements? So I like to say what Gary Vaynerchuk often says: macro patience, micro hustle. Let me say that one more time. Macro patience, micro hustle. Micro hustle meaning, dude, let's do the small things right now that we know are going to take action, that we know are going to work. Let's be consistent, all that sort of stuff. But on the macro level, when it comes to results and the long-term viability of what it is that you're building, we have to be patient with that. T with Prit says, I've already subscribed. I must have subconsciously taken your style, but I'm equally a novice in comparison. How do you come up with stuff to say every day? I don't. You do. All the topics here are inspired and crowdsourced by what I know about my audience and what have many of you have come to share and ask me about, what I've come to know being in the same space as many of you, so I can share my own experiences, and I know that those will be relevant as well. And crowdsourcing questions from the community here. Big shout out and thank you to the members of the channel. If you want to support the channel, it's like $1.99 per month. And you support the organizations that we support. We're supporting teachers here at the end of the year. And you also get a green name and some emojis that you can unlock. But you don't have to be a member here. All this content's free anyway. But it's just if you want to support. And I often go to the community and crowdsource topics there. And I just pay attention. and I ask questions. I have conversations. Conversations usually are where I get ideas. Conversations in direct messages, conversations on Zoom calls. I reach out to different email subscribers every single month and I just learn more about what they need help with. These often inspire the topics to come up with every day. And I'm not obviously scripting this out. I'm just talking from experience, telling stories, and thinking out loud with you. And we can all be a community here together as a result. Luke says, if you're worried about being patient or need inspiration, just look at those that have made it. Pay close attention to their journey and how long it took. That always inspires the heck out of me. Indeed, Luke, thank you for sharing that. We have to be careful, though, because if we just compare people how they are now versus where we are in the same moment, like November 12th, I was about to say 1955, 2020, right? The same moment in time, different parts of the timeline. We have to think about their timeline. When did they start? What were all the struggles that they went through? They don't often talk about those things. I try to talk about the struggles as much as possible because I want things to seem, because it's true, that it didn't happen overnight, that this stuff was a struggle for me, that I am outside of my comfort zone. But that's, of course, where all the fun growth happens. Teachers making the basics fun. Pat Flynn, thanks for seeing and helping teachers. You rock. Thank you, but you rock too. Thank you, Pat. You're amazing. This isn't about me. I want you to take action. I want you to make progress. So again, to recap the things that we discussed today related to being consistent, because I know, and I've seen 50 new people come in the last 5 minutes, so thank you. It always seems like at the tail end, right before the next hour, there's always a huge group of people here. So thank you again for coming in. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and the bell notification icon. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. My mind is blown every single day when new people come in. And I love that because that means there's new people who I can help and serve. And whether you leave a thumbs up or a thumbs down, I don't care. I'm grateful that you're here. And I hope that you have a better day if you did indeed leave a thumbs down. But let's talk about these 5 things to recap, again, that we can do to remain consistent on anything that we want to put our mind to, right? We often hear that phrase, you can do anything as long as you put your mind to it. That is, in fact, also a Back to the Future quote, right? George McFly writing and Marty going back to 1955, telling his father, who's a struggling writer, that same thing. And then his father in 1985 in the second timeline saying the same thing to Marty McFly when his book arrives. Anyway, here are these 5 things. Number 1, gamification. Think about the Apple rings. And what can you do to create streaks? How do you display this? How do you visually see the things that you're doing? Maybe a chart, maybe a thing on your whiteboard, maybe a spreadsheet every day that you log in and you see every morning when you wake up, or a bunch of Post-it notes. Whatever you need to do to visually see, okay, this is the thing I need to fill out today because I need to keep that streak going. Have that set up so that you can have some gamification to drive you moving forward too. Also thinking about the reward on the other end. What do you unlock at the next level? What happens after 30 days of doing this straight? How are you going to treat yourself? And only allow yourself to treat yourself when you fill in all those gaps. That's number 1. Number 2, this idea of accountability, having other people in play to serve you and help you. Maybe it's formalized and you actually recruit somebody to hold you accountable, or work with other people who are going through the same thing with you, right? It's so much easier to go to the gym if you know you have a gym partner who's going to hold you accountable. And of course, you're going to hold them accountable too. And now you can be there together and enjoy it together, struggle together, etc. Or maybe you have an audience, a number of blog readers or YouTube or YouTube viewers or podcast listeners who you know are there. And who, if you share that you're up to something, you know that they're going to be wondering what happens with it. And you don't want to let them down. So having a group of people or even a single person hold you accountable can be great. Next, thinking about your why. But more than that, what's at stake? What's at stake here if you were to not remain consistent? What are you going to be giving up? What, in fact, would be a negative if you were to actually stop being consistent? Number 4, keeping the start simple, meaning reducing as much friction to start the thing as possible. The reason why I'm able to show up for 239 days straight here is because I literally just have to walk in my office, turn on the lights, and hit go. I don't have to set up anything else. Everything is all ready to go. I promise you, if it was just even a little bit harder, number 1, it would take more time and then I'd have more time to sort of psych myself out of it. But number 2, it's just, I'd get tired of it. All the cameras are here. I haven't moved it for 239 days. Well, that's not true. I've experimented and moved things around, and we have different cameras and all these kinds of things to kind of make it interesting. But anyway, this is how we get better also, just continually doing it. Which takes us to the last one, which is think about how much you can improve the more often you do this thing, right? And the fact that if you were to stop being consistent, you're also stopping the opportunity for you to improve, to learn from your mistakes. And ultimately, if you're in this for the right reasons, serve other people too, and be there to help others as well. There we go. So, chat, thank you so much for coming in today. We had a really good conversation, a lot of energy in the room. Thank you. The coffee definitely did kick in. Hook me up with a coffee emoji if you're a coffee drinker and a member here. And yeah, there you go. Somebody was asking, I think it was, who was that? I can't remember. But they were asking about how do I get my name featured here? Well, there's a couple ways to do that here in the community. You could join the community. You can become a member for $1.99 a month support, and you get a green name here, plus you unlock some emojis, and we have conversations in the community posts, and we hang out with each other there too. Secondly, if you leave a super chat or something like that, that just is built into YouTube, where if you pay a little bit to support the creator, your name will be featured, and I get to like definitely see and give you a shout out from there too. But again, you don't need to pay anything. I do this for free. YouTube is not my income generator. I mean, I do make money here, but it's smaller, relevant to the online courses that I have, the coaching that I do, the sponsorships that I run on my podcast, the companies that I own, the companies that I sell, the advisorship I do, the membership site that I own, all this kind of stuff. Thanks for the coffee emojis. That's giving me even more energy. And so, yeah, come back in tomorrow if you can. We're coming in and playing some games, going to do some giveaways, prizes, fun. That's what it's all about on Fridays for us, to decompress after a big week. And this was definitely a big week for me. I pulled an all-nighter the other night, specifically to get things ready for a webinar. And I definitely felt it yesterday. Today, I'm back to my normal self. But, you know, we go through moments like that where you got to really grind, and then I take days off, and that's how it is. So thanks for another great morning with the Quarantine Fam. I'm looking forward to office hours in a little bit. Yes, if you are a student of mine, you should have gotten an email that office hours are today 11:30 a.m. Pacific. That's 2:30 p.m. Eastern. The link in the email is there to drive you to that Zoom call where we can have a chat and actually communicate with each other, and I can answer your questions there. Stephanie is offering a reminder, and as well as Gail, that I do owe you a watch your mouth tomorrow because I forgot the secret word, but I did get it in today. Y'all heard me say the secret word earlier, so I only owe you one tomorrow, and remind me if I forget. So thank you so much. Cheryl just stumbled across this. Thank you. Thank you. And I'll see you tomorrow. 8 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Eastern. And as always, thank you for being here, and Team Flynn for the win. Peace out, y'all.
This is the income stream to help you achieve your dream, all while we keep it clean. This is the income stream. It's the kind of show where you
Bill, thank you for joining Team Flynn Gold, my friend.
with no fee required. The income stream with Pat Flynn.
Daddy-o. This is Lex. Hey, y'all, thanks again for being here. Appreciate you so much. You make my day, and it's still the morning, so thank you so much. Have a great one, y'all. Peace out. I appreciate you. High five.